You would think on an episode of Worlds Collide that focused specifically on the cruiserweights that it might be a clean sweep for the 205 Live brand, but yeah, not so much. Let's talk about it.
It's burning down, it's burning high. When ashes fall, the legends rise.
What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here with a very late review of Worlds Collide for April 17th, 2019. This week's theme, as I said in the introduction, is the cruiserweights. Last time it was NXT alumni versus current NXT. This time it's all the cruiserweights of NXT, NXT UK, 205. Interestingly enough, this is supposed to be a battle of all five brands, and other than Luke Harper, who's a story in and of himself, we haven't seen much from Raw or SmackDown in this colliding of worlds. The commentators this time around are Aiden English and Tom Phillips, and it's a lot better than last week. Make of that what you will. And we go on, we go forward, we go to Tyler Bate versus Brian Kendrick, which is NXT UK versus 205 Live. We do a nice little bit showing a picture of Tyler Bate when he was a kid at an indie show, seeing a Brian Kendrick match, and he got a picture with his favorite wrestler of the time, which is all good and whatever. I have a handshake to start, get that nice little history lesson from the commentators. We immediately get a dueling Big Strong Boys Brian Kendrick chant, and we go forward. It's very face in the beginning, and it just gradually, you know, Brian Kendrick slips into his typical role as we go. Very weird for me, because I haven't seen 205 Live in a long time. The heel Brian Kendrick had sort of that pirate aesthetic with a little bit of the beard and whatever. He comes back, he's out all clean shaven, and he's a little more generic looking. Looks a little bit more like the Brian Kendrick of old. Doesn't change what he does in the ring, obviously, but it is a little bit of a flashback for those of us who remember his old days in on the first version of the brand split SmackDown tag team division. It was Brian Kendrick and Paul London, then it was Brian Kendrick and somebody else. I can't remember. Oh, Billy Kidman? Was it? I don't remember. They had the plastic shorts, very early Usos vibe. Collar and elbow tie, and Kendrick backs off. It's great because Tyler Bate, we all know, is a really strong guy. That's why they get the Big Strong Boys chant. Kendrick goes in for the collar and elbow tie, but immediately backs off and yells out into the crowd, "How come none of you told me he's a big strong boy?" I thought that was really great. Test of strength, knuckle lock takedown by Bate, wrist lock takedown by Kendrick, and a hammer lock reversed by Bate, who begins on working on all the joints. And yes, I used to say it's the Pete Dunne thing, but I think it's just in general the UK thing, that whole, you know, we're going to grab an arm, we're not just going to grab an arm, we're going to work the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, the hand, the knuckles, etc. Eye poke by Kendrick and a hard right hand. Eye poke in the corner by Bate and a hard right hand. Knockout. Anything you can do, I can do better. I love that story. You guys know. Backdrop by Bate, and he hits a snake eyes on all four corners, followed by an uppercut, again leaving him laying. There's a bunch of times in this match where there's a whole sequence from Tyler Bate, and whatever the last sequence is, I was about to say Bate, Kendrick just absolutely flatbacks for him and makes him look really good. Kendrick tackles Bate from behind out of the ring. We start getting a USA chant going from Brian Kendrick, which a lot of people on Twitter I saw the other day, I wondered what they were talking about, and now I know. You know, why would you chant USA? It's supposed to be brand versus brand. It's not supposed to be a national thing. It's like, yeah, but you're literally fighting a guy from a brand called NXT UK. So it very much is location-based in this sense. But I don't really get what everybody was so upset about, because you got a USA/UK chant. You got people not in the UK, you've got people in Brooklyn that are there for WrestleMania chanting for the UK brand. So it's really not as much of a problem as the little twerps on Twitter would like you to think, is it? Mudhole stomps by Kendrick and a snake eyes on the second turnbuckle. Surfboard with a post by Kendrick, a headlock and a neckbreaker. Right hands by Kendrick and a combination of strikes by Bate. Head scissor, exploder suplex, and a running star press by Bate. Bam, bam, bam. Fucking amazing. Pinning reversal sequence and a super kick by Kendrick. Left jab by Bate. Captain's hook from Kendrick. I forget what they used to call it when he was in the Cruiserweight Classic, and then they changed it to the Captain's hook. It's kind of lame as a name, but it's still a really decent move, because you're breaking the person's neck before they're even really in that submission. It's a 1-2 punch. It's as good as Sasha Banks thinks the Banks statement is. I'm sure of it. Left jab by BATE, Captain Hook by Kendrick, helicopter spin by BATE and a series of uppercuts, rolling kick by BATE, a leg lariat by Kendrick, but a rebound lariat and a Tyler Driver 97 gets the win for Tyler BATE. Not only does it get a win for Tyler BATE, it puts 1 point on the board for NXT UK. Next one we get, and this is, I don't know how I feel about this because it sort of telegraphs its own finish as well. You got Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews, who have a pretty important tag team match next week on NXT UK, taking on the thrown together team of Arya Daivari and Mike Kanellis from 205 Live. The first thing that I think and the first thing that the commentators think is, why don't we get any Maria? That's already a point against this match. If I was Simon Miller, that would be the first down of the match. But I'm not Simon Miller. That's really strange. I'm going to just carry on. Andrews and Daivari start, and then Kanellis tags in, and then Daivari tags in, and then Kanellis tags in, and then Daivari tags in. It's really, really cool. They get the crowd going, and the crowd is strange for this one because they like half the team. They hate Daivari, but they really love Mike Kanellis, and it's one of those Lars Sullivan situations where they're not really going to get Lars Sullivan over as a heel, as an intimidating guy, because people feel bad for what's happened to him in his real life. And I think somebody that watches more 205 Live than me can correct me down in the box below if I'm wrong. I think Mike Kanellis is going to run into that same kind of problem, because we know that he went away for a long time and dealt with a lot of demons, and then when he made his comeback on 205 Live, from what I've heard, he got a pretty almost like a hero's welcome type thing. Like, you could have used that the same way that I'm sure they're going to use Roman Reigns' unfortunate circumstances. Plus, he's got Maria Kanellis with him, and who can hate Maria Kanellis, realistically speaking, unless you're lying to yourself. So when they did this multiple tag thing, the story was supposed to be that they were playing mind games with Mark Andrews. You know, he would go in to do something and they would immediately tag. But when Daivari was in it, they would boo. When he tagged in Kanellis, there would be a cheer. When Kanellis tagged Daivari back in, there would be a boo, etc. Finally, Andrews makes the jump to the other corner of the ring and starts the match. And we go on. Daivari works the arm and the shoulder, rolling arm drags by Andrews, right hands in the corner by Daivari, and armbar by Andrews. Flash finally gets his tag in, Kanellis gets his tag in as well. There's a pop for both tags, so once again the babyface heel dynamic kind of goes out the window a little bit, even though Kanellis is trying his best to be an asshole. Collar and elbow tie up by Kanellis, arm drag by Flash, a second rope head scissor by Flash, and a front face lock. A double hip toss by Flash and Andrews, followed by a moonsault senton combination that was mwah! It was really, really good. Top rope double stomp to the arm by Flash, which is everybody's working on everybody's arm, so that makes sense. Top rope double stomp to the arm by Flash. I just read that. That's what happens when I get lost in my own notes. Cheap shot by Daivari on the outside, a lariat by Kanellis. Chops by Flash, a forearm by Kanellis, and a snapmare. Stomps by Daivari, and a neckbreaker and a hard Irish whip. We're working the back, we're working the shoulders, we're working the arms, we're working the neck. It's all good. Low drop kick to the face by Kanellis, which isn't going to hurt your neck, or isn't going to help your neck whatsoever, followed by a corner clothesline, which is going to have a very similar effect. Snapmare by Daivari, same thing. Rides a grounded headlock for a long time. Crossbody on both men by Andrews, chops and strikes. Enziguri by Andrews, a stomp and a standing moonsault, which is, again, really, really good. You look at this, right? You look at the reception that Mandrews gets not only on NXT UK, but whenever they bring him back to the States for anything, and you realize how much... We have this conversation about TNA quite a bit, where they took the odd person that WWE never used, like a K-Quick, like a Christian, those type of people, and gave them the chance to see if they could be main eventers. Why did they never do anything that at least I can remember? Why did they not ever do anything with Mark Andrews? Because the guy, he's fun, and he's a babyface, and he has a fun entrance that gets everybody up out of their seats, so that's kind of an unfair advantage. But this guy really knows how to carry the crowd and how to be sort of vicious in a babyface way in his matches and get the crowd sort of behind every one of his punches. It's really interesting, and with the call-ups that we've seen from 205 Live recently, and with the likes of Cedric Alexander, Buddy Murphy, no longer Mustafa Ali, I could see Mark Andrews doing something really big on the main roster, and I hope it does happen. Anyways, crossbody on both men by Andrews, chops and strikes, Enziguri by Andrews, the stop, the standing moonsault, and that's where we let off. Boot by Andrews in a tornado DDT, and at this point, you know, the tornado DDT, it bounces right off the freaking canvas. But after that, the tandem suicide sentons by Flash and Andrews really... if you didn't already know that they were meshing as a great tag team, just watching that particular sequence would prove it to you. Spinebuster by Kanellis and a roll-up attempt by Flash. Stun Dog Millionaire by Andrews, a snap senton to the back. I don't know how to describe this because Flash does a senton, or I guess you could say a swanton if you're a Jeff Hardy fan like me. But he does this thing where he sort of contracts in mid-air, and it puts a snap on the move, even though it's a mid-air move. So we get a Stun Dog Millionaire from Andrews to set up for the snap senton by Flash. Flash and Andrews get the win. NXT UK gets the win. NXT UK gets the second win of the night. As I trip over my own words trying to over-explain things that I think are really, really fucking awesome. Now, because all we've seen so far is 205 Live and NXT UK, we get a triple threat match. We get Grand Metalik from 205 Live. We get Ligero from NXT UK, who's another really, really fun guy to watch. And from NXT, we get somebody that I've never heard of before called Albert Hardy Jr. On commentary, they try to cover up that really, really quickly by saying, hey, the cool thing about this Worlds Collide show is you're probably going to get to see people that haven't even debuted on their own brands yet. Now, that's a nice little cover, and if that's one of the things that they're going to use the Worlds Collide show for, then I am all for it. Now, going into this, I'm thinking, okay, if 205 Live isn't going to take the sweep on this show, and NXT UK has already gotten 2 out of 2 victories, maybe we'll give a victory to NXT, and maybe we'll give a victory to this guy who's sort of debuting to get him started off on the right foot and get NXT on the board. Yeah, a little hint, not so much. But we have a 3-way, there's not necessarily a handshake of respect, but there's sort of a 3-way of high fives and fist bumps to start the match, and it's all good. Then we have Hardy, and that's going to mess me up because every time I say Hardy, I'm going to think of Jeff or Matt. But Alberto Hardy Jr., I was about to say the third there because I'm just, you know, tripping all over my words in this review, aren't I? But he looks at his 2 opponents, Grand Metalik, who's obviously a luchador, and Ligero, who's apparently the UK luchador. And he just sort of starts making a pantomime of putting on a mask of his own. Now, I don't know this guy. I don't know if he's a babyface or a heel. So you're looking at him do that, and he's doing sort of this type of thing, like he's putting on a mask of his own. We just can't see it. And you wonder whether on one half it's a respect thing, where he says, you know, I want to fit in with you guys, I'll put on a mask too, or whether he's just mocking them. And even as this match is over, I'm really not sure what they were going for there, but it was a nice little thing, made the crowd laugh, etc. They do a sort of an 3-way test of strength to start the match, and it never really goes anywhere because a 3-way test of strength, you know, leverage and all that. No one person is going to get leverage over his 2 opponents, are they? Unless you've got like 2 luchadors taking on Braun Strowman, and that's not what's happening. So it breaks up pretty quickly into a brief exchange of strikes, sort of everybody hitting everybody. Headlock by Hardy and a dropkick, trip and a head scissor by Ligero and a missile dropkick by Grand Metalik. Metalik and Hardy trade some shots for a while. There's an atomic drop by Hardy, an abdominal stretch by Hardy, and a cradle attempt, which I believe was the first pin attempt of the match. Springboard roll-up by Ligero. They trade some shots with Hardy. Insiguri by Hardy. Chops by Metalik. And a crossbody by Hardy. Hardy rips at the mask of Ligero, and you start getting a little indicator that he might not be the good guy in the match. I'm just saying. Rips at the mask of Ligero to distract him long enough to get him into an abdominal stretch. Super kick by Metalik came from right off screen, and I don't talk about filming very much in WWE. I think we talk about video packages and all that sort of thing, but I don't talk on this channel very much about the actual filming of matches. When you've got it, and the entire intense story is, here's the only guy in the match without a mask ripping at one of the guy's masks just as a distraction tactic so we can get him into the abdominal stretch, and the commentators are playing that up, and it's like, I don't care if you're a luchador or not, every person that steps in that ring knows the meaning of a luchador's mask. I don't care if he's from Mexico or Japan or the UK or wherever, those masks have a meaning. So you're really, really invested in those two, what they're doing, and completely from off screen comes Metalik with a fucking super kick to take off your damn head, and the way it was shot, it was on those 2 guys, and that kick came literally out of nowhere like an RKO. Super kick by Metalik, chops by Hardy and Ligero. Metalik hits a rebound elbow to both men, bulldog by Metalik, a suicide dive, and then a splash. Insiguri by Metalik, followed by a Metalik driver, forearms by Ligero, slingshot stunner by Ligero, senton over the ropes is really, really nice. Insane deadlift snap German suplex with a bridge by Hardy. should have won, for a guy that I don't know, should have won this match. Deadlift, snap German suplex with a bridge. Had him in front, does the deadlift, into the snap, into the pin, should have won the match. Didn't win the match. In comes Ligero with a spike tornado DDT off the second rope. He gets the win. NXT UK gets the win, and it's 3-0-0 for the three brands involved tonight. And then we get the main event, which is awesome. Got Jordan Devlin, the Irish ace, who I really, really like, who is, I'm sorry, I keep saying it in my NXT UK reviews, he is Bizarro Finn Balor. I look at Jordan Devlin and I basically picture, because I didn't see him in Japan, I didn't see him in ROH or whatever other indies he was in when he was Fergal Devitt, but when somebody says to me that Finn Balor should go heel, basically they're telling me he should be Jordan Devlin, because right down to the facial expressions, they're so similar, it's fucking creepy. And then you got AKIRA TOZAWA, who's a mid-carder that touched a bit of gold on his respective brand and is just generally liked by everybody. He's got the battle cry with the thing that he does, and it really, really hypes up the crowd, versus Devlin, who's just really good at being a heel. So you got a guy that everybody's ready to boo, and you got a guy that everybody's ready to cheer. You got two fantastic fucking athletes. You got all the ingredients for a great fucking match, and it wasn't that long. I mean, I didn't go back and timestamp it or anything like that, but it doesn't feel like it went that long, which means I want to see more of it, which means the match did its fucking job. Oh yes, and this is another... I mean, AKIRA TOZAWA, I'd love to see on the main roster, but we see how they treat Shinsuke Nakamura. They team him up with Rusev, which is... what do you say? You put AKIRA TOZAWA up on the main roster, they'll probably team him up with Jinder Mahal and have another international foreign heel tag team. But I mean, Jordan Devlin, if he was on the main roster, they would probably go the same way. But what does that mean? Sheamus already has a tag team partner. They'd probably team him with Finn Balor, and Balor and Devlin would be an amazing fucking team. Either they come out as two assholes, you got this guy just being the way he is right now, and rockstar douchebag Finn Balor, who has some cocky heel tendencies occasionally, or you find something for Jordan equivalent of the you don't just bring him out and paint him up as another demon, because that's a little bit too far, but you find him something equivalent and have him just come out there and wreck fucking shop with Balor. I think that would be great. So AKIRA TOZAWA kind of is good where he's at. I mean, I don't know if he would have still been partners with Hideo Itami if Hideo Itami hadn't left, but I mean, he's a utility player. He's there. He can make everybody else look great, and it's all good. Test of strength, shot to the legs by Devlin, and immediately there's a little bit of a mentality game going on there, because if you look at the two of them, you got one guy that's really good at wrestling, joint manipulation, ground game, etc. You got one guy that's good at striking, and the guy that's not known for his striking is the one throwing the first strikes. There's a nice little mental game there that's really, really good. Leg sweep by TOZAWA and a side headlock and a waist lock. Single arm takedown by Devlin, working the arm, working the shoulder. Snapmare by Devlin. TOZAWA works on the arm. So again, like I said in the previous match, each one's going to work the other one's arm. Oh, you're going to do that? I'm going to do it a little bit better. Shoulder tackle by Devlin and a running knee by TOZAWA. Mudhole stomp by TOZAWA and a soccer kick to the spine. As I say, not exactly a babyface move, but when the crowd is behind you, they're behind every punch you throw, or in this case, every kick you throw. Devlin throws TOZAWA between the apron and the guardrail back and forth, working on his back, then gets him back in the ring and hits him with a back breaker. There's a lot of back in that statement. Back elbow and stomps to the head, body shots by TOZAWA, Uranagi and a standing moonsault by Devlin, front slam by Devlin, you know, sort of sternum first type deal. I lost my place again. Headlock with a body scissors by, front slam by Devlin, who then puts him in a headlock with a body scissor, working on the midsection, working on the spine, working on the chest, working on the breathing area, and all the technical prowess and previous planning is right there. You run him into some hard objects on the outside, then a backbreaker in the ring, then you just work, continue work. The back, the spine, the midsection, it's all great. Head scissor by TOZAWA and a running knee, followed by a suicide dive, selling the back the whole time. Missile dropkick by TOZAWA, sells the back when he hits the ground. Then he puts him in an octopus stretch, which is great. It's one of those, again, I'm going to protect my back by working on yours. Backbreaker by Devlin, an exchange of strikes between both guys that goes on for quite a bit. A pump kick and a super kick by Devlin, a super kick by TOZAWA as well. And you can see he can't quite lean back as far in the super kick because he's working the back, etc. Snap German suplex by Tozawa, and it was one of those sort of like a last stab attempt as you see him grab his back when he's done. That's the last maneuver that he could possibly throw out there where he's going to get anything out of that injured back. Face first suplex, backdrop style suplex by Devlin, and Devlin gets, I don't know what, and again, they shouted out what the name of the move was. I didn't catch it. But basically, it's sort of a inverted, the impact almost looked like a power bomb, but it was like sort of a angle slam, back suplex type of maneuver, again, with that snapping effect. Devlin wins this match. Tozawa's not hurt by this whatsoever. NXT UK wins this match, and NXT UK won the whole damn night. NXT UK came in and swept the episode that should have all gone to 205 Live. In your theorizing, I'm not saying I'm upset. I'm not saying that anybody got screwed or anything like that. But as I say, again, the logic of it all dictates that if you've got a specifically cruiserweight directed or themed show, you would think that WWE would go the easy logical route and give it to the cruiserweight show, which is 205 Live. But then you remember how much small talent, or I hate saying it that way because it sounds like I'm putting them down. I'm really not. But how much lightweight talent they have on the show that could, I mean, you could take somebody the size of a Sami Zayn or a Finn Balor or, like I say, a Jordan Devlin or anybody like that, even the new guy, Hardy Jr., and put him on 205 Live. And 205 Live could be a competing brand if they made it. And I think that's what you're supposed to believe coming out of this. But it's also kind of cool that they subverted your expectations of, okay, they're doing a cruiserweight episode that's going to go to 205 Live, obviously, and the subversion of that expectation really does shine a big bright light on NXT UK, which does make sense because it's their newest brand, and the UK guys are over outside of the UK, and that's the really, really cool thing to see. Like I say, Devlin gets the response he's supposed to get. Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews are over as hell no matter where they are. It's really, even Ligero, even people are having fun with the Ligero character, even though I do think in that match you should have given the win to the new guy who needs to have an impressive introduction. But it was really a lot of fun. You guys know from the Cruiserweight Classic that it is really hard for me to take notes on cruiserweight matches just because they go so fucking fast. So this hour-long show took me about an hour and a half to watch and take notes on, only because I was pausing it so much. So I will say, as I should have said at the beginning, there's a bunch of stuff in here that I probably missed. There's a lot of little minutia and intricate details that I probably either missed or forgot to write down. Go back and watch some of this, especially even though it's not that long. Check out Devlin versus Tozawa. It's a really, really good main event. It's a really good mesh of styles, and you know, we're fighting brands. It's 205 versus NXT UK. We're fighting, you know, countries. It's Ireland versus Japan. It's main roster versus WWE Network roster. It's every conceivable divisible line within the WWE family of brands that you could have, and it's just a fucking fantastic match. Go back and watch it. These are a lot of fun. I'm sorry it took me so long to get around to doing this. As you guys all know, life gets in the way. It's Easter weekend. Happy Easter to those of you that are celebrating. But till next time, I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later, but right now I am tagging out. Bye.
So shine, come a freak like me.